What's happening, people? And once again, welcome back to youtube.com/CubCamTV for this something brand new on a Friday morning. Very excited to be getting into this new video idea selection, kind of playlist, just in general, kind of continuum of content that we are going to be exploring. We are finally getting into a football section on the channel. This is something I've wanted to do for a long period of time. Obviously, I'm a big football guy. You probably know this from my reactions. I'm always doing football analogies, but also probably the clips that I upload. We did recently go viral on TikTok for playing football, so I thought this would be a good opportunity to kind of branch into something a little bit different, actually bring some football content to the channel. I've appeared on numerous different channels over the years. I did appear on the United Stand for a little while a couple of years back. I've been on Sarcasm City TV, a number of different channels, so I am very excited to get into this today. As our first piece of official football content on CubCam TV, if you are new to the channel, do make sure you are getting involved by hitting that subscribe button on the right-hand side of the page, turning notifications on, leaving a like, leaving a comment, all of that good stuff as we launch Cub Talks Ball. Now, this is something I'm very excited to do today because we are going to be exploring the transfer window. Obviously, the January window this year was one of the most crazy that we've ever actually seen. So many ins and outs going on over the course of the transfer window. Really interesting deals going on. The most money I think ever spent in a January transfer window, primarily down to one club, but we'll get into that. And what we're going to do is we're going to quickly go through and look at which transfers have happened and also decide who won the transfer window. Now, I think it's pretty obvious who won the window when you actually look at the transfers that have happened, and obviously there's a big kind of elephant in the room in this sort of conversation, but I actually want to go for and pay a little bit of respect and have a kind of little look at the other transfers that have happened from different clubs, so this should be very interesting indeed. So let's jump into it as we see. We're going to start off then with Arsenal. This is the Sky Sports official finalised transfer page, so these are all the transfers that happened in the January window, confirmed, all the ones that took a couple of days to be confirmed and officialised. We are now here. So Arsenal is where we're going to start. Leandro Trossard from Brighton for 27 million. I actually think that's a very shrewd bit of business. I think Trossard will provide them with a much needed set of reinforcements in the attacking department. Again, Jakub Kiwior from Spezia. He's a defender, I believe. For 20 mil. Again, it gives their defenders a chance for a bit of rotation. And also Jorginho in from Chelsea. I actually think they've had a very good window. They've brought in players that clearly allow them to have a bit of rotational nous, and it gives Arteta a chance in the cup competitions maybe, and in the Europa League to maybe rest a couple of players in certain scenarios, and it also means he can kind of push further forward in his bid for the Premier League, maybe even rest a few players in the Premier League in the easier games. Be really interesting to see how both Trossard and Jorginho slot in, but also how this Kiwior player from Spezia will actually get involved. Again, leaving wise, I don't think there's anyone specific. Lokonga obviously going to Palace on loan was an interesting one, and Cedric Suarez to Fulham on loan. Apart from that, it's pretty kind of standard younger players and sort of back-end players kind of being loaned out to different teams. Aston Villa, we're going to move on to Alex Moreno from Real Betis. I think that's one that's been talked about quite a bit. Interesting signing. I actually think Villa have quite a stacked squad as it is. I don't really think they needed too much, and obviously with Emery in charge, he's going to be very specific about the players he wants to bring in. This John Duran character, however, from Chicago Fire, it's the first time I've ever really heard of him. But apparently he's got something about him. I've got a friend who is a Villa fan, and he was saying it's quite an interesting one. But yeah, very interesting stuff. I always find it interesting seeing MLS players coming to the UK from the MLS. I always find that quite interesting. Again, on the outgoings, we see Danny Ings off. Louis Barry, I think, has played a couple of games or had a couple of appearances. Aaron Ramsey to Middlesbrough. That's an interesting one. Again, just very interesting. Looking through their sort of thing. Again, players leaving off on loan. No kind of major outs apart really from Danny Ings. But yeah, interesting stuff. Bournemouth, some interesting signings for them. The Antoine Semenyo signing from Bristol City is interesting. Obviously bringing in Darren Randolph from West Ham as well. Dango Otara from Lorient. I don't know too much about him, but that's quite an interesting one. Ila Zabani from Dynamo Kiev. That's a player whose name I've definitely seen floating around. Matthias Wiener from Roma. I think Roma have actually let quite a lot of players go during this window. I don't know off the top of my head, but I seem to remember I know Zaniolo was on the way out as well. I keep seeing their name pop up. Interesting stuff. Some good reinforcements for Bournemouth. I have got the I did have the Premier League table up here, so there we go. Bournemouth obviously in that lower zone. It's going to be interesting to see if these reinforcements can actually get them out of the bottom tier. They currently have the worst record in the Prem over the last 5 games, tied with Leicester. Loss, draw, and they've got Brighton next, so that's going to be interesting. Brighton are obviously in good form, and they've got 2 games in hand. I think that might be one of their games in hand as well. So Brighton can actually Brighton are genuinely in a position where they can mount a charge for top four if they actually win their 2 games. I find that so mad. But there we go. Back to the January transfer window over on Sky. Here we are. Some interesting ones. Obviously, Jamal Lowe going out from Bournemouth. Jamal Lowe was always my sort of go-to buy on FIFA when you started with like a League 2 team and you had to work your way up. I always went for Jamal Lowe because he was always gettable. But yeah, that was always a player I like getting hold of. Interesting stuff for Brentford here as well, as we do see Romeo Beckham from Inter Milan. That's the big one. I don't know whether this is all publicity, whether he's joining. I've seen a lot of people saying he's joining as a B team player. I don't know. But Inter Miami on loan. Romeo Beckham is in the Premier League. There is a Beckham back in the Premier League. Very interesting stuff indeed. Outgoings as well. Nothing too crazy there. Aaron Presley going to Accrington on loan. Yeah, nothing too crazy. Now, this is an interesting one for Brighton. Jamie Mullins in from Bohemians. We also see Facundo Buonote, I think that's pronounced, from Rosario Central. And this Yassin Ayari character from ALK Solna for 3.5 million. That seems like it's going to be a typical Brighton finding a player that you didn't know about beforehand. Next thing you know, he's going to be worth 35 million. He's going to be bid for by Spurs. That's a typical sort of scenario. But clearly, Brighton have a fantastic network. Interesting in regards to outgoings for Brighton as well. Leandro Trossard obviously out the door. Aaron Connolly back on loan to Hull this time. And we also see Shane Duffy finally leaving after a very long stint at the club to Fulham. Again, it's a difficult one for Brighton. Obviously, they have held on to Caicedo, but the other one that I find just so bizarre with Ferguson actually being out of the picture now for them, they still don't have an active centre forward. I think Welbeck is their only recognised sort of centre forward at the moment, so it's a shame. It does really feel like Brighton are a kind of like a solid centre forward away from being confirmed like Europe this year. That's how I honestly feel. But there we go. It's a shame they couldn't bring a forward in. I know they were in for Vitinha as well, but I think he ended up going to France. They didn't want to pay the buyout clause. So there we go. Interesting stuff. How much will that affect them come the end of the season? Now, we approach the elephant. We approach the elephant in the room. Let's start at the bottom, shall we? Malo Gusto from Lyon, 26.3 million in for Chelsea. Noni Madueke from PSV, a very highly thought of player, definitely one of those players you always see banded about as like a wonder kid. He's now in the Premier League. Madueke now plays for Chelsea, 29 million. João Felix on loan from Atletico Madrid. That's a very interesting one. I wanted him at United. I'm a big Felix fan. Andre Santos from Vasco da Gama for an undisclosed fee. I don't know how big a deal that's going to be. David Datro Fofana, again, I don't know how big a deal that one is, but he's in from an undisclosed fee as well. And then we also see, obviously, these three are really interesting. Benoit Badiashile from Monaco, 35 million. Big signing, obviously, to help out on the defensive line for Chelsea. Mikhailo Mudryk from Shakhtar Donetsk for 88.5 million. And Benfica have allowed Enzo Fernandez to join on deadline day, 106.8 million. This is, without a doubt, one of the craziest transfer windows of all time. Not even necessarily just a January window. I can't remember the last time I saw a team have a summer like that, which is absolutely crazy. Incredible window from Chelsea. They are clearly looking to rebuild ASAP. They're clearly trying to reformat that team with some of the best young talent about. No doubts there. Badiashile, Mudryk, Fernandez, and obviously Madueke, all players that are kind of banded around as kind of wonder kids. Even Felix on loan, although he's sort of past that wonder kid phase. I don't know too much about Gusto, but very, very big window for them. And then on top of that, only actually really letting first team player Jorginho go. Crazy. Their squad is so stacked, but Chelsea's squad is always stacked at the end of the day. Incredible window from them. Crystal Palace bringing in Ahamada from Stuttgart, and bringing in Lokonga from Arsenal. I think Lokonga from Arsenal is actually a shrewd bit of business for Palace. I think he'll develop really nicely in the system they've got going on. And again, obviously, he's not having to move. He's still in London, so he doesn't have to kind of worry about relocating for a short period of time. I actually think he'll get quite a bit of game time at Palace, and I think that'll be a really good way of him, I don't know, just getting to grips with the Premier League in a different sort of setting. You know, I think that's a really good bit of business for Palace, and it's a good move for Lokonga as well. We see Jack Butland obviously going out on loan to United, John Carmani Gordon to Carlisle. Nothing super crazy on the outgoings for Palace. Everton, none. Not a single player has joined Everton. In a time where this is probably Everton's worst ever period in the Premier League era. I think they are the only club still to never be relegated from the Premier League or the top division. I don't know which way around it works. I know they've got a record like that of some kind. Anthony Gordon has gone to Newcastle. Tom Cannon Preston. They literally just have outs. Nkunku going to Saint Etienne. You have Rondon leaving to River Plate on a free transfer. They've got a lot of players leaving, not a single player coming in. I think with Sean Dyche coming in, he has an absolute mountain to climb. If they stay up, it's an absolute miracle. They so desperately need better players, and they've let one of their better players go in Gordon. I don't know. It doesn't look good. It doesn't look good for Everton, I've got to say. Fulham bringing in Sasa Lukic from Torino. I've seen a little bit of him floating around, watching a few Serie A clips here and there. Looks like a semi-decent signing. Cedric Suarez from Arsenal on loan. Again, a bit of experience to add to their back line. I'm pretty sure, Cedric's the right back, isn't he? Yeah. And then Shane Duffy from Brighton, again, more experience into that back line. We do see Anthony Knockaert off to Huddersfield. That's a name from the past. I know he was at Fulham, then at Brighton, then back at Fulham. He's gone back and forth. Very interesting indeed. Now, I honestly think Leeds have had a very good window here. Bringing in Max Wober from Salzburg. Again, good talent there. Jorginho Rutter, an interesting one. That's a new club record for them, I believe. 35.5 million from Hoffenheim. Again, I do have the stats on this one up here. I looked through earlier, and this one really interested me. He's a France under-21 player. He's not the most prolific of goal scorers. 11 goals in 64 appearances for the Bundesliga side. Obviously, he's still young and he can still develop. But I feel when you spend your record signing, your record fee on a new signing, I feel there should be at least some level of kind of I don't know, some level of guarantee. I don't necessarily think they've got that with this guy, but again, Leeds do have quite a good record in recent years of bringing new players into the Prem, so that'll be interesting indeed. Weston McKennie, again, from Juventus on loan. I definitely think that's a very, very solid boost. It does add to this American contingent that they've got going on, obviously, with Marsh and Adams in the middle. It does kind of give them a bit of synergy. It does mean the heart of that team is very much based out of a US system, and the US are a team that are getting better and better over the years. Interesting stuff. I think Weston McKennie will do quite well in the Prem. I think he's going to be quite suited for it. And then Diogo Monteiro from Servette. I'm not too sure on who that is, if I'm being entirely honest. Again, Matthias Klick going to DC United on a free. Again, nothing too crazy on the going outs. Diego Llorente to Roma on loan is an interesting one. Leicester, Victor Christiansen from FC Copenhagen at 17.5 million. Bear in mind that we didn't see Leicester spend any money in the summer. Tete from Shakhtar Donetsk on a free. Nathan Apoku from FDM Fieldmaster Sporting Club on a free. And Harry Suter from Stoke. So interesting. Not exactly kind of... I don't necessarily think these are signings that are going to completely change the team. I think Tete's a bit of a risk. I think Christiansen can go 50-50, but there is a good kind of consistency rate of kind of, I feel, Scandinavian defenders coming into the UK. That seems to be quite a consistent route. That they're always half decent. You look at Christiansen, you look at Botman, you look at Lindelof. Not amazing a lot of the time. Obviously, Botman's had an incredible season, but I think there's a solid route there. And then, interestingly, on the outs, you do see Jose Perez to Real Betis, Mark Albrighton to West Brom. You do see Ben Nelson off to Doncaster as well. So interesting. Some interesting moves there. Again, the only player in for Liverpool, Cody Gakpo, 45 million, and yet to really make much of an impact. And a few kind of back-end players off onto Swindon, Bristol Rovers, Kilmarnock. Manchester City only bringing in one player this window, Maximo Perone from Vélez Sarsfield, and then letting quite a lot of players go out on loan. And obviously the big one leaving for them is João Cancelo off to Bayern Munich on loan. Interesting that that's a loan as well. Is he going to come back? Is that a loan to buy? Not too sure. I presume that sort of time period with Cancelo is now done. It didn't seem like it ended on the best of terms. Moving into Manchester United then, we do see, what do we see? We see Crystal Palace on loan, Jack Butland as the new reserve keeper. I actually prefer Jack Butland to Dubravka. I thought Dubravka had so many mistakes in him, and you saw that. I don't think he was really up to it. I think Jack Butland's got a lot of experience in the Prem, has always been a sort of staple, featuring throughout his career, so I think that's a decent bit of business. Wout Weghorst, I think, will work under Ten Hag. Definitely not the long-term player we need, but on short notice, I don't think we could have done much better, if I'm entirely honest. I'd have loved Felish, but he's not an out-and-out sort of centre-forward in that role. He's more of a kind of creative, kind of behind the centre forward player. I think someone to play hold up and provide an alternative to what Martial brings when he's fit, I think is a good idea. Not the best, but solid. I think Marcel Sabitzer is one of the best pieces of business done in this window. However, I think bringing him in from Bayern Munich on loan, I think he's going to fit into Ten Hag's system absolutely perfectly, and I really do hope we do actually try and get him in the summer. I think Marcel Sabitzer, what he would bring to that United team, the energy in midfield is what we've lacked for so many years, and I think Eriksen obviously adds a level of dynamism when he's on on the ball, but off the ball, we've been caught out from time to time, and I think Sabitzer will actually help that scenario quite heavily. If you haven't clocked, I'm a United fan. Cristiano Ronaldo out to Al Nassr, of course. Shoretire to Bolton. Charlie Savage to Forest Green. Charlie McNeil to Newport on loan. So a lot of youth players going out on loan. Interesting that Tuan Zabi's gone to Stoke on loan. That is quite an interesting one. Newcastle, again, getting some business done. They have brought in Anthony Gordon. They brought in Harrison Ashby from West Ham for $3 million and Garang Kuol from Central Coast Mariners, $300k. Whether that's going to be a backup youth signing, I don't know. But again, interesting scenarios when you look through their outgoings. Chris Wood out on loan to Nottingham Forest. Obviously, the combination of Wilson and Isak looks like it's going to be the thing leading the line. Chris Wood seems like it was going to be a bit of a stopover signing. Again, good bit of business. I liked Chris Wood at Newcastle. I liked the idea of what was going on there. Carl Darlow finally off, if you're looking for these, and John Joe Selvey obviously off to Nottingham Forest as well. Interesting indeed. Now, Forest have had a very interesting window. Some potentially very good business here. Danilo from Palmeiras in for an undisclosed fee. Gustavo Scarpa from Palmeiras again in on a free. Chris Wood in on loan. Felipe from Atletico Madrid in for an undisclosed fee. Keylor Navas. What? This is the one that caught me. I actually put this into my top 5 transfers, because if Keylor Navas is playing for Forest, the amount of experience that will add to that back line, just in general, the atmosphere changes when you have a player of that kind of magnitude joining your team. Champions League winner, of course, is at PSG, international goalkeeper. I think that's nuts. I think that's such a nuts bit of business from Forest, and it does show where the Premier League is in regards to attracting players. John Joe Shelvey from Newcastle as well. I think John Joe Shelvey's a decent player, man. I think he'll do quite well in that Forest kit. Interestingly enough, on the leaving, nothing too crazy for them. Del Taylor off, Aaron Donnelly off as well. So yeah, interesting business from Southampton as well. They have been spending money. You see Miroslav Orsic from Dinamo Zagreb. Again, that's a player that has obviously had a lot of kind of international experience, possibly a good bit of business there. Carlos Alcaraz from Racing Club, James Bree from Luton Town, Kamaldeen Sulemana from Rennes, and Paul Onachu from Genk. Some interesting business there. They're spending money, and if we're honest, Southampton do have a good record of introducing young players that aren't necessarily that well known just yet. Obviously, Bella Kotchap being one of them, and I think it's Lavia in the middle of the park as well. Two players that obviously started well this season, tailed off a little bit, obviously, as Southampton aren't doing very well, but they've brought in reinforcements, and whether these are players that they're looking to sell on to raise a bit of money for the club when they go down, I don't know, but it's interesting to see, because I do think Southampton are going to go down this year. Nothing too crazy on the outgoings either. Spurs with some interesting business coming in. Arnaut Danjuma, risky signing, I do honestly feel. Coming in from Villarreal on loan. Pedro Porro coming in from Sporting Lisbon on loan. And Jude Soonsup Bell coming in from Chelsea for an undisclosed fee. I believe that is a youth signing we looked at earlier. So interestingly enough, on the leaving board, you do see Brian Gill off to Sevilla on loan. Matt Doherty off to Atletico Madrid on loan. And Jed Spence off to Rennes on loan as well. That would be good for Jed Spence. I think the international experience always benefits English players. So there we go. West Ham then, as we continue to look through this list. Luisiano from Sao Paulo on a free, and Danny Ings in for 15 million. It does give them a different option in the attack. Craig Dawson has gone to Wolves for 3.3 million. Darren Randolph, obviously, as we said earlier, off to Bournemouth. And yeah, just nothing too crazy on the outgoings. Harrison Ashby obviously going to Newcastle, as we already said. But not the craziest window from West Ham. And then we do see Wolves with an interesting window. Craig Dawson in. I actually think that's quite a shrewd signing. I think it'll add a bit of a surety to the back. They definitely need it. Mario Lemina from Nice. We do see Pablo Sarabia from Paris Saint-Germain. Good experience there in the middle. And then you do see Matthias Cunha from Atletico Madrid on loan. João Gomez from Flamengo as well for 15 million. Darren Bentley from Bristol City. They've reinforced. What it will do, I'm not too sure, because they have let Gonçalo Guedes go to Benfica on loan. Campagna has gone to Inter Miami on a free. Fabio Silva has gone to PSV on loan. It's interesting. It feels like they've swapped a lot of the same level players for just new players that are at similar level. I do find it quite bizarre how Wolves are operating their business. But there we go. That is the window explored. It's going to be really interesting to see how the signings bed in. I honestly think there's no real question. Chelsea are the clear winners. Just look at that. You've got 4 of probably the top 20 young players in the world right now joining. Funnily enough, I think Fernandes is probably the worst out of the signings. I get why he's so expensive. Obviously, international. He's done well in Europe. Blah 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 blah. But I think Mudryk is a better signing. I think Badiashile is a really good signing for 35 million. He's got a lot of potential about him. I think Madueke is going to be one of those wingers that just is around for the next 10 years, causing trouble. But there we go. That is the window broken down. Guys, let me know your thoughts on this as a video. Obviously, the football content is new to the channel, so if you want to see more of it, do let me know. If there's any topics you'd like to see me cover, football-wise, I'm going to try and do at least 1 or 2 football videos a week because I'm a big football guy and I want to introduce it to the channel and give me the opportunity to explore a different avenue, not just music, because obviously I'm a big football guy and I love playing football. I love talking about football. I love watching football. So there we go. That's it from me, though. Hopefully you have enjoyed this one. If you have, do make sure you are getting involved by hitting that subscribe button on the right-hand side of the page. Of course, turning notifications on as well. Leaving a like, leaving a comment, and all of that good stuff. And we shall see you all next time. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and peace.
Them sounding so good right now. But they're sounding a Brighton town.
Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel right now, Cubcam TV. Stay locked.